Have you ever wondered what happens when a hero isn't a hero at all? In a rain-soaked saloon, a man stands over the body of the town sheriff. He's not here to save anyone. He's a ghost of vengeance, and when he speaks, his voice is a low rasp. "I've killed just about everything that walks or crawled at one time or another," he confesses. "And I'm here to kill you for what you did to Ned." This isn't a heroic showdown. It's a grim, terrifying execution. This is the climax of Clint Eastwood's masterpiece, Unforgiven, and the final stop on a long, dark road that saw him tear down the very idea of the Western hero he had come to represent. For generations, the cinematic West belonged to men like John Wayne. His characters were protectors of law and order, men with a clear moral code. Wayne famously refused to shoot a man in the back, a rule that defined his heroic image. He saw the West as a place where good always triumphed. When he saw Eastwood's film High Plains Drifter, he was so disgusted he sent Eastwood a scathing letter. It was more than a disagreement. It was a battle for the soul of the Western itself. Today, we'll explore the 3 stages of Clint Eastwood's journey to becoming the West's darkest hero. It began with a rebellion against the clean-cut cowboy he was forced to play on television. It became a revolution when he created a new, cynical anti-hero that changed the genre forever. And it ended with him, as a director, turning a critical eye on his own legend, revealing the ugly truth of violence that had always been hiding in the shadows. Part 1. The Idiot of the Plains. The journey into darkness began, strangely enough, on the bright, sunny plains of American television. Before the poncho, the cigar, and the squint that could stop a bullet, Clint Eastwood was Rowdy Yates, a clean-cut cattle drover on the hit TV series Rawhide. For 6 years, from 1959 to 1965, Eastwood played the perfect TV cowboy, a character whose simple goodness he would later seek to destroy. Rawhide ran for an incredible 217 episodes, following a team of drovers on a cattle drive after the Civil War. Eastwood's character, Rowdy Yates, was the young hothead. He was impulsive and often made mistakes, but he was a good man at heart, learning life's hard lessons on the trail. The show was a massive success, making Eastwood a household name. But for the actor himself, it was a prison. Behind the scenes, Eastwood hated the role. He was nearly 30 years old, and the boyish nature of Rowdy Yates grated on him. He reportedly called the character the Idiot of the Plains, frustrated by the simple writing and the limits of network television. The grueling schedule, filming 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, only made it worse. But this time wasn't wasted. Eastwood was already thinking like a director. He once watched the crew film a massive cattle stampede from a safe distance. Riding in the middle of the chaos, he saw a more exciting movie in his mind. He suggested taking a portable camera on horseback to get right into the action, but the producers shut him down. This only fueled his desire for the artistic control he could only get in movies. Despite his frustration, Eastwood was smart. He knew that television was a stepping stone to the big screen. He publicly thanked the show, calling it the springboard to make a somebody out of an unknown. His 6 years on Rawhide were an apprenticeship. It was a time of quiet rebellion, where he learned his craft and developed a deep dislike for the very type of hero he was paid to be. The Man with No Name wasn't just a new role. It was the complete opposite of Rowdy Yates. Where Rowdy was young and talkative, the Man with No Name was ageless and silent. Where Rowdy was a moral Boy Scout, the Man with No Name was driven by cold, hard cash. The dark hero was born from the ashes of the TV cowboy, an act of rebellion that would change the Western forever. Part 2. The Revolution in a Poncho. In 1964, while still on Rawhide, Clint Eastwood took a gamble that would change everything. For just $15,000, he flew to Spain to star in a low-budget European film by a director who didn't speak a word of English. The movie was A Fistful of Dollars, and the character he played would become a global icon, the Man with No Name. This wasn't just a new role, it was a revolution. The man behind this revolution was Italian director Sergio Leone. By the early 60s, the American Western was dying out. Its heroes were old, and their simple morality no longer fit the times. Leone saw an opportunity. He wanted a new kind of Western, one that stripped away the romance and showed the frontier for the raw, unforgiving place it was. His hero would be cynical and stylish, driven by greed and revenge, not a sense of duty. Leone's blueprint for this new hero came not from America, but from Japan. A Fistful of Dollars was a remake of Akira Kurosawa's samurai masterpiece, Yojimbo. Both films feature a quiet, masterless warrior who wanders into a town torn apart by two rival gangs. He then cleverly plays both sides against each other for his own profit. The new American hero, the man who would save the genre, was an import, a mix of Japanese stoicism and Italian cynicism. The creation of the man with no name's unforgettable look was a team effort. After many famous actors turned down the role, Leone saw a picture of Eastwood from Rawhide. He reportedly drew stubble on the face, sketched a hat low over the eyes, and put a cigar in his mouth. Eastwood brought his own props: the black jeans, the hat, and the gun belt he used on Rawhide. The iconic Poncho was found in Spain. Together, they created a look so powerful it needed almost no words. And that was Eastwood's biggest contribution: the silence. He felt the original script had too much talking, and that the character's power was in his mystery. "I wanted to play it with an economy of words," Eastwood said, "and create this whole feeling through attitude and movement." This silence became his trademark. The foul-tasting cigar was another key piece. Though a non-smoker, Eastwood felt the bitter taste put him in the right mindset. For Leone, the cigar was a symbol of control. The way the character lit it became a sign of his murky morals, somewhere between the good guys and the bad. When Eastwood suggested dropping the cigars after the first film, Leone famously replied, "You've got to." The cigar's playing the lead part. The man with no name is not a hero. He's a mercenary who kills for profit. In A Fistful of Dollars, he starts a war between two families to line his own pockets. Yet he's not a pure villain. He shows fleeting moments of a buried moral code, like when he risks his life to save a captive woman and her family. He operates by his own weird ethics, blurring the line between right and wrong. He arrived at a time of great disillusionment in America. The old heroes no longer felt real. The man with no name, with no past, no home, and no cause, was the perfect hero for a cynical age. He wasn't fighting for God and country. He was fighting for a fistful of dollars, a motive everyone could understand. Part 3, Bringing the Darkness Home. When Clint Eastwood returned to Hollywood, he was an international star. With his own production company, he began to explore and deepen the anti-hero he had created in Europe, pushing the character into even more disturbing territory on American soil. His first American Western, Hang 'em High, was a bridge between the lawless world of Leone's films and the traditional Hollywood Western. Eastwood plays Jed Cooper, a man wrongly accused and lynched by a posse, only to be saved at the last second. He's offered a marshal's badge and a chance for revenge, but with a catch: he must bring the men in alive for trial. This put the vigilante impulse of his famous character in direct conflict with the American legal system. Cooper became a man torn between his own dark desires and the rule of law. If Hang 'em High tested the anti-hero, his next film as a director, High Plains Drifter, plunged him into pure evil. The film is less a Western and more a horror story. Eastwood plays the Stranger, a figure who appears out of the desert heat like a ghost. The story strongly suggests he is the vengeful spirit of a marshal, the cowardly townspeople allowed to be whipped to death. The Stranger isn't a protector, he's a punisher. Hired to defend the town, he instead torments them. He forces them to paint every building blood red and renames the town Hell. He is a supernatural force of retribution, making it one of the bleakest westerns ever made. With the outlaw Josie Wales, Eastwood explored the anti-hero through the lens of the Civil War. Josie Wales is a peaceful Missouri farmer whose family is murdered by pro-Union militants. This tragedy drives him to join Confederate guerrillas, not for politics, but for revenge. The film has been criticized for its sympathies. but it also carries a powerful anti-war message. Wales's journey is one of survival. This hardened killer slowly becomes the protector of a makeshift family of outcasts. By the end, he has found a new purpose not in vengeance, but in protecting the forgotten. Across these three films, Eastwood, now in control as a director, wasn't just repeating a formula. He was taking his own iconic character and asking tough questions. What happens when this man is bound by the law? What is the true, terrifying nature of his darkness? Can a man made by such violence ever find his way back to society? This willingness to dissect his own creation was the final step before its ultimate destruction. If you're enjoying this look into the dark heart of the Western, do us a favor and hit that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Part 4. Tearing Down the Legend. By 1992, the Western was considered dead. That's when Clint Eastwood returned to the genre one last time to deliver its final word. Unforgiven is more than just another Western. It's a deep and personal takedown of the very myths Eastwood himself helped build. The hero, William Money, is the exact opposite of the classic gunslinger. When we first meet him, he's not a fearsome outlaw, but a pathetic, failing pig farmer. He's old, broken, and can barely shoot a gun, let alone stay on his horse. We learn that Money was once a notoriously vicious killer, a drunk who murdered men, women, and children without a second thought. He was cured by his late wife, and now he clings to her memory to keep his true nature at bay. He takes on one last job, to kill 2 cowboys who hurt a woman, not for glory, but because he's desperate for money to feed his children. Unforgiven tears apart the myths of the West, one by one. There's English Bob, the dime novel hero whose grand stories are exposed as lies. There's the Schofield Kid, a young wannabe who brags about all the men he's killed. When he finally does kill someone, an unarmed man in an outhouse, the reality is pathetic and ugly. The act breaks him, and he confesses he'd never killed anyone before. The film's central message is that violence is not heroic. It's an ugly, soul-destroying act. This is made clear by Money himself. After the kid's first kill, Money tells him, "It's a hell of a thing killing a man. You take away all he's got and all he's ever going to have." The film strips violence of all its glamour. Gunfights aren't elegant duels, they are clumsy and terrifying. This all leads to the final, devastating saloon showdown. After the sadistic sheriff, Little Bill, murders his friend Ned, Money takes a drink of whiskey for the first time in years. The drink doesn't give him courage. It awakens the monster inside. He rides into town and massacres Little Bill and his deputies. This isn't a moment of victory. It's a terrifying fall into damnation. He shoots unarmed men, fleeing men, wounded men. He hasn't found redemption. He has simply become the cold-blooded killer he always was. The violence of the man with no name was cool and stylish. The violence of William Money is traumatic and spiritually damning. The early films created a myth. This one destroyed it. Eastwood, the man who became an icon playing the cool killer, uses his final Western to confess that the image was a lie. He's telling the audience that cheered for him for decades, this is who that man truly was, a broken, damned soul. Clint Eastwood's journey from TV good guy to the ultimate anti-hero is one of Hollywood's most fascinating stories. But what do you think? Who was the greatest Western star of all time? Clint Eastwood or John Wayne? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories from the Old West.